And here we have Gavin McInnes. He is an original co-founder of Vice Media and is the host of Get Off My Lawn on CRTV at crtv.com. Oh, also twitter.com/Gavin McInnes, McInnes. Gavin, thanks so much for taking the time today.
Salut Stefan, je suis vraiment contente d'être ici avec vous.
Bon. Now, with a couple of kids, couple of rugrats in the house, and a history of Christian festivities, what does Christmas mean to you? Has it changed? You know, with this sort of cycle from being a kid to having kids is a big change for Christmas. What does the season mean to you? What are its most essential elements?
Massive changes. I mean, as a kid, it was just about presents, obviously. And even then, you get kind of bored by noon. And none of your friends want to come out and play because they have to do family stuff. So I remember from noon on being kind of bored by Christmas. But now that I have kids, obviously it's exciting. We're pushing the Santa thing. I used to pay a guy, don't tell anyone this, to come over dressed as Santa. And then in my other house, we had like a look down from above thing. And I would wake up the kids and look, there he is. There he is. Shh. And he had a $350 suit on. It was amazing. Sometimes they wouldn't even remember though. So we're not doing that anymore. It's wasting money.
The problem with hiring any reasonably accurate Santa is the healthcare costs, because to be an accurate Santa, you have to have like really stuffed up arteries and, you know, quite the belt buckle, bulging belly. And so, we'll cover the costs. We just can't do the health insurance. It's just not possible.
Yeah, and he was fat, and I didn't want him to park his car nearby, so he would have to run down the driveway with all his gear on and his big bag, and by the time he got to the door, he'd be drenched in sweat.
There's a reason he's red-faced. That's a lot of exercise for a fat guy. And of course he's fat and jolly because he can't run and he can't fight. So gotta be funny.
Now, I'm glad you asked, though, because I was thinking about this all weekend, and I think Christmas, a lot of it is the same thing that people feel when they say "Make America Great Again." And "Make America Great Again" means let's stop being ashamed of ourselves and take some pride in our surroundings and enjoy our surroundings. So they're not saying "Make America like slavery." They're talking about sort of like 1984. They're talking about, no, not the Orwell, 83, we'll say.
I would go with a different year myself, but it's your choice.
Not the best choice. They're talking about the 80s. They're talking about, short T-shirts and feathered hair and ski-doos and sea-doos and fun stuff.
Big shoulder jackets for women and leg warmers for the exercise queens.
Yes, cocaine and getting into trouble and fistfights and stuff. And I know this sounds crazy, but that's what I think Christmas is. It's the entire Western world going, you know what? We have a great family. We can afford to buy some presents. This is awesome. Isn't this amazing that we can buy our kid a toy? This is so fun. And they love the story behind it. I love seeing them happy. I'm going to stop worrying for a week and really just enjoy myself and everything I have. So it's like Thanksgiving in many ways. It's a way for all of us to recognize that our world rocks.
No, that's true. And I do think that for a lot of our ancestors coming as they did from sort of Northern Europe and the UK, there is this, well, we got a long way to go till spring comes, so we better make something fun. I can remember when I was a kid, we used to not eat for a while. There would be, was it Lent? And then it was like Ash Tuesday or Ash Wednesday or whatever it was, where it'd be like break out the pancakes and so on. And it's not coincidental to me that these vacations, these holidays, these feel-good things occur at times when, it's kind of grim. The days are very short, it's very cold, and then you don't have a lot of food in the late winter. So, hey, why not just have a don't eat kind of holiday? And then, when the food comes back, when you can finally harvest some stuff, or at least, you're going to make it, break out the larder and enjoy the remains. So I like the deep analogies with the origins of our people, so to speak. Like the fact that what does December mean in the Middle East? Not that much, but it means a lot when you're from a very cold climate. So I like the deep interweaving of Christmas with sort of the evolution of our tribe and our people. And I think that's a very powerful thing.
Yeah, the austerity of the cold is very good for you. And I was reading this book, That Which Does Not Kill Us, and he pushes cold showers, and I started taking them, and it just improves your life vastly. And every time some guy is down on his luck or he doesn't know what to do with his life, I say, take 30 cold showers in 30 consecutive days and call me back. And you're right. Part of part of the Christmas is a sort of confrontation. I think it comes from pagans celebrating the shortest day of the year. So we just took Jesus's birth and we said, well, let's say it was December 25th and get the pagans in on the mix. And the reason that the pagans chose that day is because they worship the sun, they worship nature, and that's what Christianity sort of got intertwined with, is this sort of this thankfulness that we have life. I don't know if I'm going off on a tangent here, but I really feel like it's like a lot of Native American traditions are about, let's go to the sweat lodge and let's boil in here. So when we come out and we can finally breathe and we can finally appreciate what's around us. So austerity and indulgence are heavily linked.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of our culture, the Northern European culture, a lot of it comes fundamentally out of this confrontation with winter and the need to survive. Like, why are we so good at planning? Why are we so good at deferring gratification? Because those who weren't generally did not make it grasshopper style through to the spring. So there was a huge whittling down, which was very tragic. But the winter is very foundational to the origins of where we came from and where our culture came from. And it is something to celebrate because it was a harsh mistress. Winter is a very harsh mistress, but it does tend to produce some pretty fantastic cultures.
Yeah, it does. And, especially in Montreal, I remember we would sit in bars from January to March, and the only topic of conversation was probably the only time that we weren't talking about French versus English, and it was, how the Hades, how in hell did the pioneers survive here? It took me 30 minutes to get dressed to come to the Biff Tech on Saint Laurent. I put my jacket down, the seat falls backwards. How did they survive in those cabins? Jesus, it must have been brutal.
Oh, so when I was at McGill, I had a class on World War II. It went for the whole semester. It started at 8:30 in the morning. Because when you're studying World War II, some austerity and some privation seems kind of relevant. But, I'd have this alarm clock. This is back before cell phones. I have this alarm clock that would wake up and it would be like, good morning, everybody. It's 7:30 in the morning now. First thing you need to know about today is don't leave your flesh exposed for more than 60 or 70 seconds or it's going to freeze solid. And it was like, oh yeah, and we're studying the Russian front this year or this month. So actually that kind of works in. Yeah, you'd have to wrap yourself up like a Sandman just to get out of the house. It's incredibly cold. And even like, because you can't, you breathe it in and your lungs get like this frost. It's inside you. It goes into your bones. It's so foundational. And I will just say, Montreal has a special kind of witch's boob frigidity to it that is truly breathtaking. I've worked in Northern Ontario, Northern Manitoba, up near the Arctic Circle where the trees are thinning out. I have never felt as cold as I did in Montreal when I lived there off and on for 4 years. So I went to the theater school and then I went to McGill. And in the winter there, I never spent summers there because I'd come back to work in Toronto because I don't speak French that well. But man alive, that is the coldest I've ever been. But it was some of the most beautiful weather in terms of, get some tobogganing, some skiing, some skating and stuff like that. Bracing, as they say. You kind of have to reuse the, can't call it cold, invigorating, refreshing, bracing. You've got to have those words. Otherwise, you just don't step foot outside at all.
I was dating this woman, Stephanie Chabot, and she was just on welfare because French people are lazy. And she would just sit there and get checks from the government. But I was a bike messenger in the winter. Ooh. And I'll never forget, you come down that hill, Saint Laurent, and you turn right on Avenue des Pins or whatever it was, and the cold would just go right through your bones. It was like being murdered. But yeah, the spring in Montreal, when these women finally get off their parkas and they can wear short shorts and high heel shoes again, you become a Roadrunner cartoon going boing.
I had this when I was in school. I got a check for $100, which man, when you're in school, that's like a huge number of falafel meals, but I had to go to a particular bank in the middle of nowhere to cash it. And I was looking at this check, and it was like, this was like January. So I was looking at this check, and I was like, does the bus go there? No. Subway? No. Can't afford a cab. I'm going to have to walk a good portion of the way. And it was like $100. Frostbite, $100, frostbite. And I did eventually go, but I'm telling you, it was a toss-up. I'm like, wait, can I stale date this thing to the spring? I don't know if I can make it that long. But yeah, those kind of decisions, you don't have to make a lot of those in Jamaica.
I guess a big part of Christmas too is reverence. It's thankfulness and thanks for the pioneers. So I think you're sort of appreciating what you have. And hey, we got a house here. We built this family. And that's why, by the way, when someone can't afford presents, it's such a big deal because the whole point of this is to celebrate that we can buy presents. So when someone doesn't have them, we got to do a toy drive. They've got to be part of this because it's not a minor detail, enjoying your wealth. And if you're poor, this is where charity is really needed. But another big part of it is saying, thanks, pioneers. Thanks for being so hungry. You had to go dig up your grandmother and eat her face because you were starving to death.
I don't believe I've seen that Hallmark card, a little pop-up, half-eaten zombie grandma face. But, it's a market opportunity. It's a market opportunity.
I just feel like we should be more in awe of everything around us. Maybe that's having kids. I think there's a lot of childless people on the internet bitching about everything. But once you see a little foot work and the little toes go like that, you tend to appreciate everything a lot more and just go, thank you, God. Thank you for everything I have.
Oh, there's nothing like that first moment in parenting when you lose an argument to your child. I mean, that is a road less traveled for a lot of people. I
just had that the other day. I said, I'm constantly enforcing screens. Get off your screens, no iPads. And it's like being a corrections officer. Like you'll hear silence and you'll go to their cell and you'll find it under the bed. And I'm constantly with my baton swirling it around trying to find screens. And I caught my daughter, with the screen. And I go, hey, it's not screen time. You just lost your screen time. And then so she's crying because she's mad. And she says, well, why? Why are screens bad? I go, there's been study after study showing that it stunts your creativity, especially teenage girls. They tend to be suicidal. You're impairing your imagination. And she goes, scientists say it? And I go, yes, tons. And she goes, well, you laugh at climate change. You say that's all a lie. That's scientists saying. So why are the scientists wrong with climate change but right about screens?
Oh, yeah. No, my daughter is like, well, Dad, why do I have to quit sugar just because you're quitting sugar? Because you had sugar till you were 50 and I'm only 8. Well, I can't disagree with you there, and I'm not going to shake the giant patriarchal fist of authority, so I guess we're back to negotiating. And this is something, too, as well. The left seems to really dislike Christmas, and I always wonder whether they dislike Christmas as a whole because it's a Christian thing, and they just seem to have a big hate on for Christianity as a whole because Christianity means smaller government, or they just don't like spending time with their own family. And that, to me, is particularly tragic. I mean, one of the great things for me about Christmas is more time with my family. Not so much my family of origin, but the family that I have now, the friends that I have now. If you love your social circle, isn't Christmas a beautiful time and a way to spend more time with those people? But if it's like the eye-rolling, oh, Mama's gonna ask me why I'm not married yet and don't have children yet, it's gonna be tense, and it's like, oh, but then I can understand why you wouldn't like Christmas, because it puts you in contact with people you kind of have a lot of issues with.
Yeah, it's the same with Thanksgiving, where they call it Friendsgiving. And it's all these gay guys and spinsters getting together who don't get along with their families. And you just go, you can pretend that that's fun, but it's profoundly sad. And I think the left hates Christmas because the left hates families because, and I'll throw them a bone here, there's divorce. Baby boomer dads were the worst dads in the history of dads. They left their spouse. A lot of these women left. We've only had divorce for a couple generations, and these baby boomers just went and they shattered it. And I believe the impetus for the left's vindictiveness and their spite, it comes from it's a daddy issue, and the daddy issue comes from the dad not being around. So in a way, their anti-white male, anti-patriarchy stuff has some foundation because they got screwed over by these crappy liberal dads.
Well, that's true. And these Franken families, like these stitched together families, they don't really tend to work out that well. And there doesn't tend to be a lot of, you kind of got to grow up with people to get that bond. And, these sort of stitched together brothers and half sisters and distant cousins and a Darth Vader helmet thrown in for good measure. These are very complicated things to navigate and negotiate. And the great thing about family is if you get along, you really get along. The problem with family is if you don't get along, you really don't get along. And there doesn't tend to be much in the middle.
Yeah, well, try having Scottish parents, man. There's never a day that goes by where a glass isn't smashed or someone storms out. In fact, we only have them visit here because that way we don't have to leave and go to the airport on Christmas Day. So I'm not saying I don't fight with the original fam, but it's still crucial to be there with them. And yeah, my heart breaks for all these co-parenting homes where we go to my mom's house in the morning and we go to my dad's house. That's 50% of families that are divorced. And it's really an understated virus that has affected the whole psyche of the entire Western world. And it's just getting, the attitude to marriage is just getting worse. In fact, I was just arguing with someone on Twitter the other day and they go, dude, why are you yelling at me? Your wife left you. And I go, what? My wife left me. I ran upstairs and checked. There she was.
I'd like to know first.
Yeah. And that she was basing it on some tweet where I said, my wife isn't speaking to me now because of you dunces calling me a Nazi. And I realized to young people, to millennials, they go, well, they had a fight. They're clearly divorced. Like the go-to to divorce is just bad week, end it. Oh, you're a person of color and your husband likes Trump, end it. Just throw it away. It's not worth it.
Well, and this is the thing, too, like when it comes to family and Christmas, mom's new unshaven boyfriend in a bathrobe giving you a yo-yo is not exactly what you're looking for when it comes to family connections over Christmas. You kind of want people that you're a little bit more comfortable and familiar with, and where you're pretty sure that Christmas brunch is going to go by without any nausea-inducing groping of your mom's veiny legs. That is just my particular way of looking at things, but I think it's going to resonate with some.
But Franken families, too, are the lesser of two evils. So I think no matter what happens to you, whether it's you're a widow or you just married the wrong guy, we still got to keep trying. And I always say, like Mary Catherine Ham, she lost her husband. She's got 2 kids. Obviously, a brutal tragedy. Get married. Go out. Those kids need a dad. If you made a mistake in the past and you're stuck with a Franken family, okay. But don't be single. Children need a father figure to say, don't do that, you're stupid, that's horrible. And a mom to go, look, that was weird that you pooed your pants, but, you know, it happens. It's okay. Because that's what's a part of a balanced human being is, you dummy, why'd you do that? And, oh, well, I had some bad luck. You need both.
Yes, for sure. You need the general encouragement of early childhood combined with the paternal-based reality check of later childhood. You know, there's an old tradition that, you know, women are great at raising toddlers, but men are kind of needed to raise young adults. And this, you know, yay, good job walking, good job learning how to, you need all of that when you're a kid, but you don't need like, yay, that's another terrible lollipop drawing of a human being. You're 8, you should have outgrown it by now. You kind of need that as well. And hopefully that yin and yang is going to be available for more people throughout Christmas. So let's get your final Christmas message to your audience or our combined audience. What do you want people to focus on over this festive season?
Well, my final message to everyone at home is appreciate what you have. We spend so much of our lives, so much of the year saying the grass is greener, so much of our lives being vindictive and jealous and spiteful and looking at Instagram at someone else's life and living in someone else's universe. Christmas is a time to stop, take stock of what you have, even if you're a single mom with 1 kid, even if there's just 3 friends together and that's the best you could do, to stop, take stock and say, thank you very much, powers that be. I appreciate everything I have.
Christmas is a great time to be the kind of person at Christmas that people want to spend time with the rest of the year as well. And I hope that people will take that message. Just want to remind people, check out crtv.com. The show is Get Off My Lawn. I assume that comes with an implicit exclamation mark. And you can follow Gavin at twitter.com/Gavin McInnes, Gavin _MCINNES. Thanks so much and very, very Merry Christmas to you and yours as well.
Thanks, Stefan.